Okay, guys, this is the wealth multiplier calculator. And we're going to get right into it with the instructions on the side. If you don't find the instructions or you lost them, this is always on the website for it to just pop up. You can put your email in and it'll shoot it over there. Save the password on it. So first, we're going to get into the equity exchange rate. This is going to convert your cash to the equity with all the fees and everything else included in there. So you can even pull this up with homeowners if you need to, and you can show them directly, hey, this is exactly cash to equity with the fees in there. And it'll show you the difference of, hey, this is what those fees cost. So the equity exchange rate, we're first going to need the home value, which is the current as is value of the property with the scope of work finished, meaning after renovations are completed. This will give you the most amount of equity to use and leverage against the property. And also, it gives you an idea of this is the value of the property after the work's done. It'll give you exactly the difference between value of the contractor's work. If you do good, it may be 10,000 less. It may be better and it may be $10,000 more. And you'll start to see that in the market as more people start tying their work to actual equity instead of cash that they can just talk their way through value wise. So first, we're going to get that value with the other video of how to figure that out with comparison analysis. If you want to go more advanced, you can use income analysis. There's different ways you can value a property. The main thing is that the homeowner and the contractor signing this agreement agree to that value. If they cannot agree to it, they can either go to a real estate agent and get a competitive market analysis, a CMA, or an actual state licensed appraiser. Right now, we're just going to use 350, about an average home market price. This risk reduction percentage is the reduction in the home's value due to special circumstances of the property, the neighborhood, the homeowner, available comps for the appraisal. This is going to increase or decrease depending on how confident you guys are on that value of the number. If you're in a changing market and you're unsure if the house is going to depreciate instead of appreciate, then this is what you want to put in there for a risk. Now, if we set this to 0, it's going to be a straight comparison, meaning, hey, my cash is getting directly to the most accurate value equity percentage. If I increase this, it's going to decrease the value of the house when I pull the equity out. What does this do? It changes the equity percentage. If it's normal, I only get 8% equity. If it's increase, meaning the value of the house decreases, I'm going to pull out extra equity. So you want to make sure that this number is only used if there's something questionable about either the property or the market or the homeowner. This debts and liens we get from the homeowner. They sign a disclosure saying, hey, here's my mortgages, my liens, any kind of debt I have that's tied to that property. Also, do your due diligence to check it. Make sure you're checking the public records to verify they're not missing anything. So we're going to put this at a $200,000 mortgage that's on it. So right now, they have 42% equity to use on their property. Let's say I didn't use the after repair value and I just used the normal as is value before repairs, they would have 33%. So this is why it's important that I want to use the value after the house is finished, because I want to value my work that's getting done on the house after the work is done. I can't value my work before the work is getting done. You can with cash, you can't with equity. Right here, let's say we did a $40,000 renovation. Some kitchens and some bathrooms. This automatically takes that $40,000 and figures out, hey, what's $40,000 of this home value? It's 11%, 11.43%. I know, hey, I'm going to take 11% of the available equity, 42. If this got too high, let's say I had a $150,000 renovation to do, I'm now pulling out the exact amount of equity that's available in that property, maximizing its full use of that property. There's now 0% equity in that property. It's fully debt leaned out. So this is why it's good to use this. Once I start going over that, now I know I'm not going to get paid unless the house actually goes up and appreciates. But if it goes up and appreciates, there's some way that they need to take off their other debt so that the extra 8% is left for me at the end. If not, I'm going to get screwed over. Another thing to worry about is that there's closing fees to this. So if an agent's taking 6%, I know I have to stay under that 6%. So I can't even go up to 42. I need to keep it at 38% around if I'm going to negotiate my commissions on my resale of the property. So don't take all the way up to 100% and make sure you leave, 5 to 10% in there for them to move around and whatnot. There is ways to that equity to rebuild back up, but then you're relying on that homeowner to do that. If they're going to pay their mortgages, if they're going to, pay that down. And if they're going to pay that down, to make sure they're not going to actually re-leverage to pull that back out again. This contract only is good for disclosing liens currently. If they sign another lien or pull out equity after it, that's on them and they start over leveraging and they're going to have to start using their credit. So right now we're going to do it 40,000. So 11% is what we're going to take out for equity on them. This ordinary profit margin is the normal business margin that you would normally make on the construction side. This has to split it up so that you can see the taxes. I know contractors don't want to do this because of the way the current construction pricing is. And this is why contractors don't want to let homeowners to see their material list and prices because they normally do a 20-30% profit margin on their total estimate. And then for the materials, they'll upcharge that 100 to 200%. So this is going to break down the construction industry's construction pricing for both contractor and homeowner. Get all the lost contractors out of there and get them to actual value, standard quality, and then homeowners actually get to see what they're paying for. So this cost to work, why we also split it up is for this contract to have a stop loss on it. This contractor, even if the house foreclosed, this contract is bomb proof to where this contractor is going to get this $40,000 paid no matter what, meaning his material and labor cost to work is going to be secured no matter what, whether the house forecloses and doesn't make the money, whether it sells less than what it needs to make at least 40,000, this 40,000 is at least going to get paid back. This is the bomb proofness of this structure. So this is going to be anywhere between 20 and 30 normally. This is what is going to show the homeowner, this is the value of the quality of work I do. And then you can start showing their quality is a little bit less. They should be normally around 20%, or their quality is really high. Maybe it's around 40, 50%, depending what market you are in and a lot of other factors. But this outlines it and standardizes it for everyone. Next, we have the copyrights. The copyright fees is this document. So this structure and the power of that strength of the document that was, put in through years and decades of hard work to establish this is only 0.25% that we charge. Now, if you're using a liaison, an AKA agent, I can't say realtor, that's a trademark name, but agent, a liaison for this contract is the same thing as a realtor is an agent for that contract. This is an agent liaison for this contract. And if you're using one, you don't have to use one. This 0.25, you have to. It's in the document. It's part of that. But if you're using a liaison, this is going to change what the equity and the fee to use this document is. And this is what a wealth trading master is. It's the agent or the liaison that knows equity, that knows this document, that knows a contractor and a homeowner that can use this. They just connect to those two people to use this. They can either use it on their own or they can come to Wealth Trading directly to get the full scope of, hey, this is how to use this. So at least it's going to be a 0.25 in there and you'll see how cheap that is. This is what the normal work would have been, 52,000 charged to the homeowner after the construction's profit margins. This is what it is after. Only $875 to use that contract. How cheap is that? Well, let me show you. Currently, for HELOCs, renovation loans, everything else, it's 2 to 6%. 2 to 6%, let's just stay on the low end. We're looking at a $7,000 cost to go use a HELOC or use a home equity agreement or some other kind of financing structure for this hard money. Anything that goes through banks, they're going to charge origination fees, they're going to charge underwriting fees, they're going to charge all these extra fees, $7,000 worth on the low end compared to using a contract yourself at lowest just a quarter of a percent of the equity. So those are the fees. So, and those are your options. You can tell the homeowner, hey, go use a HELOC, and those are what you're going to get charged, or you can use this and get charged just a quarter percent. Or if you're using liaison, it may go up. Now on the liaisons, I want to make sure the liaisons know this and that everyone else know this too. That 2 to 6% is charged to the cost of work. So it would have been 2 to 6% of the amount they're pulling out. So if I'm pulling out $60,000 in a HELOC, I'm getting charged 2 to 6% on that HELOC of that 60,000 amount, not the home total. And that's where the difference is of commissions and equity percentages. This equity percentage isn't a commission to where I'm charging the full total of the house percentage. I want my liaison only charging per the cost of work. And our wealth trading masters know that hey, they should only be charging or figuring out what they should charge based on the cost of work that's getting pulled out, not based on the home's value. So a liaison should not be targeting people with high home values. They should be targeting contractors with good contractor prices. So now we get into the wealth compounder, which is the multiplier in this. Besides all the multiplications that it already does for you, this is the real wealth. This is where the leverage is. This is where the real moneymaker is. I don't know how much I can stress this, and hopefully at the end of this, you'll really, really understand it. And you can plug and play with this all day long. First, we're going to go over the stigmatized stuff, taxes. I break it down right here. Here's the two different tax rates between ordinary income tax rates and capital gains long-term tax rates. If it's a short-term capital gains, it's going to be the same as ordinary income rates. These are for single household members. You can go find other ones online. There's different rates. The main thing is that you go and find whatever your current rates are. And this breaks it down. And let's look at this 35% rate. Let's say I'm at 520. I fit this 35% rate in my ordinary income. Let's say I took $550,000 and I converted all of that to equity instead of cash this year. I would have been in this 20% rate. Now, my issue though is, let's say I only did 400,000. 400,000 would have still made me in that 35% rate, but when I come and converted all of that to capital gains, 400,000 actually drops me into the 15% rate. So just by adjusting $100,000 worth, I can not only just drop my rates from 35 to 20, which is 15%, I can now do the maneuvering around of my contracts to push equity out to a year or before a year to change my dates. Meaning, hey, if I could push 100K off to next year and drop it into this little middle gap in here between these rates, I can now get to 450K on this year, and it's now 15% instead of 20% if I change that all to capital gains. Now you can see not only did I save 15% changing it to capital gains, now I've saved 20% because I've planned it out. I planned all of the 550K capital gains. I took an extra 100K and I pushed it out an extra year, extended either the contract and see if homeowners would sell a year later or pay a year, or not even a year, 3 or 4 months later, or even, hey, don't cash me out on that equity for another 3 or 4 months. And this is the game now you can play to plan out with your CPA. Don't use this on your own and don't use anything I'm saying. Use the fundamentals I'm saying and take it to a CPA to sit down and plan with your specific rates, because these are for single home members. If you got an LLC with C Corp, S Corp, all this stuff's going to change for you. The main thing is that you can plug and play these numbers at least. So for right off the bat, we're going to use the maximum just to show you. We're going to say I maximize and push my stuff out, and I'm at the 15% because I'm only claiming or pulling out or cashing in, 450K of my 550K that I converted over to equity instead of cash. This breaks down my ordinary profits, which is just the taxes on this number up here. And this is why we needed to break it down. It's pulling taxes, the multiplying, the calculation off of this and not this $40,000. It does it on your actual profit. And this is what I would have been left with afterwards. And you can just do the difference. I would have got taxed that much and I would have only been left with 7,800. On the other hand, if I converted that all to long-term capital gains, I can now save that much. I save almost $2,400 in taxes just on a $40,000 piece of work. So that's the power of equity compared to cash. And not just equity, but making sure you structure and plan it for it to be a year long. So it's long-term capital gains and not short-term capital gains, because short-term capital gains is just standard ordinary rates. And if that didn't blow your mind, let's just keep that normal. Let's say it's all short-term. I don't want to hold it for longer than a year. Let's say I want, as soon as my stuff's done within a couple months, it's getting listed and sold. So let's just say it's 20% and 20%, just so that it's the same. And you can see that it's all the same here. We get down to the actual housing market. And this is where the power of appreciation is the leverage in equity that makes it wealth. Cash is not wealth. I don't care how much you have of it. You can have millions and millions of dollars of it, but if it's cash, it is not wealth. If it's equity, it's wealth because it appreciates for you. So let's get into the actual numbers are and how powerful it is. And these are just normal numbers. This 5.5% is just the average. If you get into changing markets like COVID, you can get in a hot market where the average was 18% appreciation. You may get in a downturn, and this actually may go negative. It may go negative 2%. Now, it may actually depreciate and go negative, but remember, we have our stop loss in our contract. So even if this goes negative, I'm still have my stop loss of my work getting paid out. I may not make my actual profit, but I'm making at least my work. So even if the house depreciates and it sells less than what's needed to make my actual equity back, the full 5,200 back, I'm going to always at least make my cost of work back, because now my contract's going to follow the homeowner after the house and the asset's gone. And now I can pursue their credit and leverage their credit to try to get my hard work back. So now we got the housing market change percentage. And if we just keep it at 5.5, which is the average, we can see the difference. The normal $12,000 of work I would have made, which is that 30%, is now $14,000. $14,000 instead of $12,000, just because I converted it to equity instead of cash. And then it appreciated. And you could play around with this. You can change it to, hey, instead of 12 months I held it for, I only held it for 5 months and then appreciated at 5%. I still made 13,000 instead of 12,000. Now, this will also show you the beauty of long-term and short-term capital gains, because if I held it for 12 months, it stays the same. But if I start holding it longer, let's say I hold it longer than a year, I now actually get the capital gains tax. And if I got the capital gains tax, it drops me. So let's see if I got if I was at the 22, which is 47 to 100, I would have been in the 15, because all of this was held longer than a year. So again, this shows me the difference between, as it also appreciates, not only do I save with capital gains, that capital gains also appreciates, and I can plug and play that number here to show me. This is if all of my equity that I used, because This isn't just one project we're using for this. We're using multiple projects. Let's say we got 10 projects. Then you got to kind of plug and play because it stacks and unstacks because you're going to have your short term that's going to still get taxed at ordinary, and then you're going to have your long term that gets taxed at a higher rate. This would show you the difference between that, if it's longer or shorter, with the compounded appreciation of the market. And that'll show you the difference between just the 12,000 I would have normally made if I pushed it in cash. I can fully make with the market if I'm fully targeting and planning this right. I can make 14,000 after taxes, which is 17 before. So that 12 converted to 17, which would have been normally 9,000 I made, that 9,000 is actually 14 now. You can see how this compounds your cash. It leverages everything in the current systems with taxes, Uncle Sam, equity, how the game works, puts it all into one thing, one calculator here for you, one contract for you to use, and go now leverage. Now, if I know I'm making 14 compared to 9, imagine the power I have to negotiate and move around my contract. Knowing that internally, but externally, no one else knows that I have now an extra 2 to $7,000 difference to move around because I can play the market with depreciation and taxes. It depends on the project. It depends on the quality I'm going to put in. It depends on my competitors I need to outbid or underbid. It gives you much, much more room as a contractor for pricing. And there's no marketing tactics here. There's no perceived value you have to put in there for quality. It's straight, hey, this is normal. My bottom, you can't do this any cheaper than this. And here's what I normally make in the market. So this is what it normally is. Yet if we convert it to equity, I'm going to be making this much. So I can actually drop this down to 20% for you, and everyone's happy. The homeowner's happy. He's not paying any cash, and he actually got a cheaper bid than we would have normally got. The contractor's happy because he's actually getting paid and getting critiqued on his work by an actual market value, not trying to just push that opinion on the homeowners. And he's making more than he normally would, with the potential of making even more if he held on to it, or if the market goes up, if he does a better job and he actually pushes that property instead of 5.5 in the market, his is actually 6% because his equity is better. It changes it. Nothing is better than this contract for contractor, and just nothing better for investors and homeowners because it breaks it all down for everyone to make a clean, clear agreement and contract for actual value and actual structure in this game. So guys, please, if you have any questions, reach out to us. Happy to answer anything. If you find a wealth trading master, they're always happy to answer anything because this benefits everyone in the game. There's no hidden things that are trying to battle each other for, let me pull my value more than someone else. It's straight someone's hard work versus someone else's hard work, and these are the value differences. And this is how it's all structured for everyone to see. So I appreciate it, guys, and go get it.